And make sure you can see the screen okay. You can hear okay. We'll wait for the stragglers. Okay. Are we all sitting comfortably?
Yeah, thank you.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you. Okay, thanks for coming to this little talk, guys. I'm going to be talking about aggression in combat. I'm going to be talking in English, and I'm probably going to start talking too quickly. So if I do, shout at me, stick your hands up, ask any questions, interrupt me at any point.
We will throw you with stones.
Indeed. Indeed. Now, within the presentation, I'm going to be showing you a number of things, be talking about some things. There's a couple of videos. A couple of videos aren't very nice. So if you feel the need, you don't want to watch them, whatever, just get up and go. Just don't make a scene because other people will want to watch. Other thing as well is I've licensed this as Creative Commons. So if anyone wants to take this, do additional work on it, do additional research on it, as long as you're not making money off it and I get a credit, I don't mind. So if you want to copy the slides, whatever, they'll all be on the internet within a couple of days. So, for those of you who don't know me, my name is James Marwood. Professionally, I'm a management consultant. I also teach self-protection, combat derfs and bartetsu. I've been a member of Schoology for a few years. In addition, I have a BA in criminology. I did 10 years in the private security industry, and I've experienced quite a lot of aggression and combat in various different arenas, outside and competitions in the gym, things like that. So I do have something to say, but I'm not the only truth, the only answer. You know, this is just my view.
What is bartetsu?
Bartetsu is it's an eclectic Edwardian martial art that was created in 1897. It's a mixture of boxing, jiu-jitsu, savate, and lacan. You know, it was what Sherlock Holmes did in the books, and it will be in the new Sherlock Holmes film. So it's quite fun, a fun thing. Okay, so what we're doing is talking about aggression. And so the first thing I was doing when looking at your subject, I go and look at the dictionary. What is aggression? The dictionary gives a number of definitions for it, but basically it comes down to two things. It comes down to fighting, attacking, and it also comes down to being assertive and forceful. So aggression isn't necessarily violence, but it can be. Okay? Now aggression is viewed differently in lots and lots of different societies. Okay? As is combat. Now what do we mean by combat? This is the dictionary definition on my computer. But we aren't dealing here with martial arts, we're talking about martial arts. Combat is what we're most interested in. One-on-one, one-on-many, in a ring, in the gym, on the piece, in the street. This is what we're interested in. About one person wants to exert their will by means of force over another. And using aggression is the vehicle to do that. So that's what we're going to be talking about. Everyone clear okay so far? Good stuff. Okay. Loads of different words for aggression. I tried to look at definitions because I'm obviously a multicultural, multi-language audience. Couldn't get them all, but every culture has a history and cultural rules around aggression and have made use of it in various different ways. We'll talk about that in a moment. In English, we get all these words that relate to aggression: bellicosity, force, militancy. You know, they generally relate to violence and to war. And that is essentially the crux of what we're discussing. However, there is this side to aggression, which gives us words like energy, confidence, vigour. And these are equally important for us as martial artists, both in our fighting and in our everyday lives. And that's one of the things I'm going to be talking about, is that aggression is something that is common to us for everything we do, not just in the gym, not just in competition, but also in our everyday lives. We can make use of it in a good way to get what we want. So, Freud, who's much maligned, but largely correct, a lot of his thinking, I think, is, well, the tendency of aggression is an innate, independent, instinctual disposition in man. Very wordy, but aggression is natural to us. Okay? It does, it's something that we've developed, that we've evolved, and that is a natural part of our everyday behaviour. Also in nature, you've all sorts of animals, all sorts of creatures are aggressive. In this case, this very handsome dog, but aggression is used right the way throughout nature. We'll touch a little bit on that because it's an area I think of interesting study. Okay, loads of examples of using physical representations of aggression to look scary, to get what we want. Okay, from The Ultimate Warrior, my personal favourite. There's all these different examples of looking scary, and that serves a number of purposes. That helps us overcome fear, that helps instill fear in our opponents. Pretty much every culture has a warrior element to it that involves some use of war paint, some use of physical manifestation of aggression, from scarification to tattoos, to death masks to face paint. It's a common thing we do. You look at guys who want to look scary, and they have the uniform, the shaped head and the big muscles and the right tattoos, and it's a common feature of telling the world I'm aggressive. Okay? We also have these heroes that are aggressive. That from Kahulin to Joan of Arc to Conan, we celebrate aggression within our society, done the right way. Our heroes, St. George, Joan of Arc, are heroic because of their use of aggression, at least partly because of their use of aggression. It's an important thing for us. It's an important thing in our society, in our culture. And one of the main uses of it is what I call bridging the apprehension gap. And that is to initiate violence upon another person is really, really difficult. Okay? To be able to psychologically put yourself over that barrier of being able to do harm to another person is something that armies, particularly martial arts trainers, self-protection trainers, struggle with. For an awful lot of people, getting over that hurdle is very, very difficult. And so we use things like aggression, we build up aggression, and we demonstrate aggression. We build up our own feelings of strength and of power by acting in an aggressive manner. And by doing that, we diminish our opponent's sense of superiority. So effectively, whether that's an American football team chanting at their opponents, whether that's a thug in the street shouting abuse prior to an attack, whether that's, as Matt Gallis will often describe, guys demonstrating their martial moves, they're brandishing their weapon prior to a duel. These are all ways of showing I'm strong, I'm powerful, I'm something that you need to be concerned about. That diminishes one's own fear and increases the fear of our opponent. And it also makes it easier to jump that hurdle into actually striking the blow. That makes sense so far? Getting some nuts, that's good. Okay. Now then. It's an issue for both civilians and for soldiers. And it's something that's been looked at in a number of different contexts. The US Army, as always, does an awful lot of research in this. And they come up with this phrase of aggression needs to be trained and nurtured. It's not enough to do 10 minutes of being aggressive. And I can sit at home in my bedroom. And I know, I still do this as part of my training. I sit in front of the mirror and it's worth doing if you're looking to use your martial skills, I think. And having that aggression, you can, by training it and then building upon it, and having it there for you to call upon as you need it, it becomes effective. Two very interesting books on the subject. Grossman, who's an American Army psychologist, wrote this book on killing. Now, I'm not particularly a fan of Grossman himself. I think he's not a particularly clued-up guy, but he does, his book on killing does talk an awful lot about turning civilized, normal guys into people who can do violence, right, and being able to turn them back again. There's no sense in us being rampaging psychos. We'll talk about that later. But we want, as martial artists, to be able to draw upon a willingness to do violence, even if that's simulated violence in the South, with all the protections of blunt weapons and armour. We're still looking at getting up and future someone, looking to exert our will by force over that. The other one that's very interesting is a guy called Lonnie Aston, who wrote a book in 1960 called The Creation of Dangerous Violent Criminals. And that's specifically of interest to those looking at criminology. But what's